Hi, this is John with Estimator, and we're back with part 3 of our Estimator sample model, the Estimator Retreat, where we're going to be talking about exterior finishes. Now in part 1 we talked about the foundation for this house, covered all the quantity takeoffs and estimates, and in part 2 we covered all the framing until we were under a temporary roof, as you see here. Now part 3 we're going to talk about all the exterior finishes, and we'll start out naturally with the openings to get this place all dried in. So the way that I typically handle windows and doors is I get a quote for those. And so I'll group all of these windows and doors typically in my models, and then group them all together, but then put them in a component and then assign the quote to that component. Or you could always enter it as a quote here as well. I just tend to keep it tied to the windows. But in this example, we're going to look at doing these individually because you may want to do that, especially when you're mocking up a design and you're trying to get a ballpark price and you don't have a quote yet. So let's start with that. And each of these openings are components. So I'm just going to select the first one and go to the Components tab, and it's an 80 by 610 slider. So if I come in here and just start typing in slider, let's see if we've got that in our database. Let's see. Let's go 8 foot. There we go. 8 foot sliding door. And it's $800, and we got tax on it and that sort of thing. So that's the door, and it adds it in there for us. Let's get this little casement window in here. It's a single casement window. So if I type in casement single, and again, these are pulled into an items database that you can add all of your different window sizes and types and all that sort of thing. I've kept this very generic for this example. So of course that's the same window, so it's going to automatically show up now that it's priced. We've got these picture windows up in here, so I'm going to type in fixed or picture, whichever this one is called. Let's see, windows, picture windows right here. And those are $195 each, so that one's going to be priced out as well. $195 plus tax. We got a twin casement here, so I'm going to type in twin. Let's type in casement double. There we go. And we've got another double casement right there, so that one's covered. And now we've got this door that is an entry door, so if I start typing in door, here's my 2.8 entry door. That is $230 plus tax. So that's all the openings, okay? So now that we've got our openings in there, we could add our exterior trim. So the first part of that, this is getting a board and batten treatment. So the first thing we have are these hardy panels that go up first. So we would chalk our line where the band is going, and we would be putting our boards on top of this these panels. So I've modeled them in the actual panels that we would be using, and I put them on a layer that was called exterior hardy panel. And these would be cut out of 4x8 sheets of hardy. So if I come in here and say hardy, there's my 4x8 panels, and it's taking the square feet divided by 32. So that gets all of these panels covered in here. So, and we don't have any waste factor in there. It would be a good idea to add waste. And again, this is a good time to show you the, we go to the items database, and let's go in and actually add a waste factor to our panels in here. So we can come in and say that the material is at a 20% waste factor, and actually I didn't have my sales tax in there. So let's put 5.3% sales tax, and let's save it. We'll come back over into Estimator, and we're going to resync, and you can see here that we changed the price for the hardy panels. That's good. And now we've got our waste in there. So that's all the hardy panels. If I was to select one of these and say to select all on the selected layers, and it's going to choose all of these hardy panels, and then there I've got my price of $644. If I go to the project tab and run a report on that, you can see that it's 17 of these hardy panels so far. All right, so then the next scene shows our exterior trim and our metal roof on there. Now, the way that I handle exterior trim, I describe this in my book, SketchUp for Builders, is a technique that I call grouped layers. So if you were to see all these different trim pieces, let me just close Estimator for a second. When I double click on this group, oh, wrong group. When I double click double click on the group of side, and you can see all this various trim pieces and soffit boards and all the tongue and groove, all the batten strips, the band board, all the window and door trim. These are all on their own layers. If I bring on the tray and look at Entity Info, you can see that's some 5/4 by 4 material there. I've got some 5/4 by 8. These batten strips are basically 1 by 3/4 by 2.5 inch actual dimension. I've got some 1 by 4. I've got 1 by 10. So I've got all these variety of trim, and I modeled all of that with Profile Builder that you see up in here, because I've got a different profile for all my interior trim and exterior trim. And then when I model it, I group all those so that each of these are on their own layer that you see there. But if I was to click on this in general, it's on a layer called exterior trim, and that gives me the ability to hide that layer to control its visibility. So I'm going to close the dialog box back up again and open Estimator. And in this case, we've already taken care of our hardy panels. So I'm going to select this, all these layers in here. Now we know we got a drop down menu. Now that we have multiple layers are selected, it turns into this drop down. So we're just going to go right from the top and assign all these pieces of trim to items in our database. So we got 5/4 by 4 is the first line item. And what we'll do is we'll just pick each of these one at a time and associate. So 5/4 by 4, and I'm going to start just typing in 5/4, and there's my 5/4 by 4 Mirrortech, and it's going to auto-populate. It's going to actually, I'm missing an attribute there, so that means I've got a mistake over my items database. So let's just delete that for the time being and come back over into our items database. And see, I've got quantities in here. This is supposed to be feet. So I'm going to change that to feet, and I'm going to copy that one cell, and I'm going to paste that into each of these need to be divided by taking the attribute of feet. So I had a mistake in there in my sample database. So I'm saving that, I'm coming back over, and I'm updating by syncing. So now that I've got my 5/4 by 4, I take 5/4 by 4 Mirrortech. Now it's taking feet divided by 16, so I've got 10 boards of that. And again, remember that I'm assigning this cost data this one time to this layer. Once I've done that, I can export this as an assembly from my exterior trim and bring it into any model, and all this data is already going to be there. You don't have to do it again. But the first time you do it, obviously, you have to enter the data. So 5/4 by 8, we have 7 of those. We have TNG soffit. So if I start typing in T, let's see if I got T and G. There's my TNG soffit. 49 pieces of that. My 5/4 by 6. 5/4 by 6 Mirrortech. I've got 5/4 by 5. That's on my corner board. So 5/4 by 5. And again, all we're doing is matching things up to our items database. We've got batten strips. So BATT. There's my batten strips. We have exterior trim 1 by 10. So we have 1 by 10, and that's right here in the Mirrortech. And we have 1 by 4. So 1 by 4 on our Mirrortech right there. And let's see, why don't we have, oh, chose the wrong one. 1 by 4 Mirrortech. That's what we want right there. So we have 8 of those. We have our 1 by 4 SPF. So let's go with 1 by 4 SPF right there. So we only had 1 of those. And the other is a Z flashing, which that's part of the roofing. So I'm just going to leave that out because that's part of the price per square for the roofing. So that's all of our exterior trim that we've got calculated now. So now let's take a look at the roof. Now this is a metal roof, and the way that I did these panels to make them look realistic in 3D for my renderings is I've actually got these metal panels, these interlocking metal panels, and you can see this profile that's very accurate, and then I just move copies next to each other. These were extruded along this plane using Profile Builder. And so what I'm doing there is I'm taking the lineal footage and I'm timesing it by 1.33, which is 16 inches, because these are 16-inch wide panels, to convert that into the area. So let me just show you how that's going to work. We're going to select the roof. We're going to go to our layers, and we're going to go to metal, roof metal panels. When I click on that, you can see I'd actually already entered the data in that prior. But what that did was I just typed in the metal roofing panels, and it uses the attribute of feet. But what it's doing is it's taking lineal feet times 1.33, which is the 16 inches, to get it to square feet. Then dividing by 100 to get it into squares, because it's $750 per square for that roof. So that gets our roofing. So the only other thing we have left on our exterior finishes is our stone veneer. Okay. Now, stone you can price a couple of different ways, but the way that I'm doing this is by using the actual material. So I'm only texturing that one outside of this. All right, so when we look at the stone, we're going to use the materials tab. And as long as you assign the price for the material, just choosing one face to texture. If you choose the back side of it, it's going to double your quantities. But I use the texture when it comes to this because this might be a stone I'm going to use on multiple products, and I've got some stacked stone that costs different from some field stone. So if I save that as a material file and assign prices to that material, then it'll stay with that in my template. So in this case, if I go to materials, now this one's odd, it's called color A05 when it's really a stone texture. But that's what that's representing. It could be called such and such stone or whatever your texture name is. So what I'm going to do is come right down to the description and start typing in stone. And you can see I got my stone veneer. And what it's doing is it's taking the area of that, the square footage of that stone, and this is $20 per square foot for the stacked stone. So what it's doing is taking that area all the way around. Remember, if I painted the back side of that, just triple clicked and painted everything with that texture, then it would throw off my numbers. So finally we have this stone sill that we've got going around on top of the stone. And what I did is I used Profile Builder to extrude these various parts and pieces. So when I go to layers, that's on a sill stone layer that if I typed in sill, here is my stone sill, and then it's $10 per lineal foot for that. So that's all of our exterior finishes there. So now I'm just going to select everything in here to see where we are to date. We're up to $21,000. If I was to run a report on that, HTML report, when I get down onto my exterior trim, which is what we were just talking about, here's all the different trim parts and pieces that we have there that go along with it. We've also got our masonry in here, our stone veneer, and our stone sills. We've got our roofing panels at $4,500. So that's all of our exterior finishes on this sample model for the retreat. We appreciate you watching, and stay tuned for the next video where we'll talk about interior finishes.